morning, welcome back to Once Driven Forever Smitten. It's another frosty morning. Today we're going to go and see a very special car. The one and only Lotus Carlton estate. Aye, so going to take the Omega down, little baby 6-cylinder to go and see the big daddy. I'm just going to go and turn left out from where I live though, because apparently somebody's went and put a car quite spectacularly into the field, and it's a 20-mile-an-hour limit out there, so we'll go and have a look and see if we can see anything in interest to just like being nosy and that, you know. Okay, so what's happened up here? Well, I can see for a start that one of the national speed limit signs has been taken completely out of the game. See that there? That's not supposed to be like that. Oh, good effort. A Mercedes-Benz. Youch. Right, anyway. Okay, so I have to admit, I'm quite excited about this. This is the only one in the world, a Lotus Carlton estate, which has been built by its owner, David. I first met David in I think 2009 when I was editor of Total Vauxhall magazine, and we did a feature on one of his cars. Now what was it? I think it was another Carlton estate which had a Lotus Carlton body kit on it, but it was a 3 litre 24 valve, and we did a photo shoot on that near the airport, and he's had some cracking cars over the years, but obviously this one is the jewel in the crown. I think I mentioned on a previous episode the Lotus Carlton is the fastest road going car I've ever driven, and there's a little bit of a story to that. When I was on Total Vauxhall, we used to get demonstrators from the Vauxhall press fleet, and also latterly the Heritage Centre cars became available, and I had the Astra GT 16 valve, which was amazing. We took that up and got John Cleland to drive it round Knock Hill, and did a load of coverage on that for the anniversary of the car. And I remember I asked if I could have the Lotus Carlton, and I really didn't think they would give me it, but they said, yeah, no problem, how long do you want it for? And I ended up having it for like 10 days, and I took it all the way up to Scotland, took it to Crail, and it was amazing. I've never had a car that gets quite the same reaction on the road as that did. And it was tremendous fun to drive, although we were pretty careful with it. The caveat from Vauxhall was, if we took it, do not break it, because they didn't have any parts to fix it if we did, so we were never like too hard on it. I think the maximum I took it up to for a second was 120, which isn't very much for a Lotus Carlton, but it didn't take long to get there either. The acceleration in these cars is just unreal, and where it really hits you is the way that it gets to 60 miles an hour, and it keeps accelerating beyond 60 at the same pace that it got to there. So I mean, they're still genuinely fast cars even today, so to have that back in 1990 when they came out was something else. Trying to think what I remember about it. Really heavy clutch and a really long 6 gear on it. Like I think if it was able to max out in 6 gear, it would be able to do about 300 miles an hour. But yeah, I was really fortunate. That was one of the definite highlights of working in Total Vauxhall, was getting the Lotus Carlton for a week. Oh, and I remember I used to play 6-a-side football on a Wednesday night, and I used to pick up a couple of my teammates, and these were guys that worked for like computer game magazines, so they weren't into cars at all. So you know, they weren't really like paying attention, they just like hopped into the thing. So of course I gets out on a bit of open road and just floored it, and I think one of them squealed like a little girl because I was like, what is this? What's going on with this thing? Because the performance in them was just like unreal. So yeah, it's exciting to go and look at this car that David's built. It is up for sale potentially if he gets the right money for it. So, you know, get your wallet out.
They're the wrong wheels on that car.
Right, I'm here with David to see his Lotus Carlton estate. That's it up on the ramps there just now. So what we'll do before we drop it down, we'll get a little look at the mechanicals and the underside of the car. So this is the estate Carlton, which the shell was originally a 2-litre diamond. Now David, what are the differences mechanically? Because you can see here it's got the same basic setup with the swing arms and the independent rear suspension.
Yeah, it's basically the same as the 24 valve. The Lotus back end is the same as the 24 valve. It's just got a bigger diff and bigger shafts, but basically a straightforward 24 valve.
Because that's what the original cars were, weren't they? A Carlton GSI 24 valve was what this was based on. So it's got an updated limited slip diff. You could see the thickness in the drive shafts on them, eh?
Yes, very big.
What's that? Has it got vented discs on the back of it as well?
Vented discs on the back with AP calipers.
Yowzers. So we've got along here, what about the prop shaft? Has that been updated on it as well?
That's the Lotus Carlton prop shaft.
Lotus Carlton prop shaft. Who done your exhaust?
Stainless Creations in Falkirk.
That's a lovely one.
First class job.
And obviously we've got this big, is it a Getrag gearbox in these? Big 6-speed.
Yes, out the ZR1 Corvette.
Oh, I mind driving the Vauxhall Heritage Centre one and how heavy the clutch was on it.
Yes, this is the same.
It's a beast. And as you get to the front here, obviously you've got your wishbone set up, and you can see Keaton in there, the big AP calipers in the front and all. What's it like to get discs and things for it, service parts for these?
You can still get discs and pads for them. Questmead and Rochdale are the suppliers for them. Great guys to work with, and they'll get you anything for your AP calipers, any parts for them, not a problem.
Brilliant. Right, let's get it dropped down and have a look at it. Right, so under the bonnet, oh, what a weight. That's a meaty bonnet.
Okay.
Aye, so under the bonnet, 3.6 litre twin turbo engine. And this was originally a humble 2 litre.
Yes,
To
was.
start off with. So what's the deal with fitting one of these? Does it go pretty much straight in?
Pretty straight in. You've got to obviously you have to change the subframes different on the 3 litre to the 2 litre. So the 3 litre 24 valve subframe fits the Lotus engine straightforward. No change with it. Gearbox and bell housing straight in. You can do it from the top, or you can do it from underneath and have everything attached, arms and everything, do it that way, but sometimes the turbos can interfere with the chassis legs, so you're better to actually drop it in for the top, but you have to put the turbos on before you drop it in, because they're so awkward to try and get them bolted up.
Right.
It has to be done
What
all bolt up.
What happens if you blow a turbo in one then? Is that like an engine out job?
You
You
probably could get it out, but it's very awkward to do.
Aye, because I remember reading about these, because this engine was like state of the art at the time, because it is based on, they took the 3 litre, didn't they, and then they went and
made it up to a 3.6.
bored and stroked it out.
Yes.
So what happened to the 3 litre engines that came out, the GSI 24 valves that they converted?
I don't know if they actually used the same engine, because the head's the same, the block's the same, but as I say, I think they rebored it out. But of course they had a common fault with these,
right?
Was number 6 cylinder would crack roughly 20,000 odd miles because of the pressure, and also timing chains used to go roughly about 22,000 miles. Timing chains used to go, fail, that was it, engine destroyed.
Oh.
Yes, it's a common fault with Vauxhall. I used to deal with Evans Hawkshaw in Edinburgh, they were the main dealer. Lex Vauxhall in 1990 in
You had one of
Roseburn.
these back in the day?
Yes.
Aye.
I've just sold one recently, 3 years ago. I had it for 17 years.
Right.
On and off. I've had about 3 or 4 genuine ones. I've had a left-hand drive as well, which went away to Belgium, and I always wanted to build an estate, a proper estate, of which, as you can see, I've taken four and a half years to do this car, and it's an absolute joy to drive.
Oh, I can imagine. Aye, so I remember I'd said earlier in the clip, the wee driving clip that I did, that this was the fastest car I've ever driven on the road. The fastest car I've ever owned was an E55 AMG Mercedes, which was bloody quick. It was one of a few non-Vauxhalls that I bought and I ended up with by accident. But nothing could touch one of these. You say 377 horsepower today. It doesn't sound like all that much, but it's hard to describe how fast these things actually are if you haven't been in one and experienced it.
Yes.
Because it's not that heavy a car, really, by modern standards.
No, it isn't actually.
It's not that big. If you park a Carlton in like a supermarket car park now, stuff like Qashqai's and everything and that look bigger than.
Yes, they do. Yes. But as I say, it's 377 horsepower. It can fly down the road. It's got a heavy clutch, but they're all standard like that. They're all just as they are.
That's just, you need that amount of meat in the clutch to go and deal with the.
I mean, this is a brand new engine, totally rebuilt.
Right.
Yes. All the parts come from America for it. Pistons, rings, bearings, uprated chains, new turbos that were done through AM conversions.
How come it all came from America?
That's where they got the parts from.
Right.
That's where they could get the parts, the exact parts that they needed to rebuild the whole engine. Right. And it's only sitting with 3,000 miles on the clock.
I remember reading about them back in the day. Says if you can buy a Lotus Carlton for 10 grand, then you'd better have another 10 grand ready.
Yes, that is correct. Yes.
You need the same amount of money again
to repair it. If anything goes wrong with the engine, you have to rebuild it. I mean, my original car, I had to get the engine rebuilt from Southwest Lotus, and at the time it cost me £2,000 for a block, and I got a bill for £6,000 for them to rebuild it, and that was in 2001. Now a block is £8,000 if you want a block for one of these cars. You cannot get.
You still do see the odd one popping up that looks like quite scabby.
There's still some of them going about, and they're fetching. I mean, the money wise, it's not what the money. It's what somebody's prepared to pay for one. There's no actual value on these cars anymore. It's what somebody is willing to pay.
That's totally all over the shop.
Yes.
So how do you put a value on something like this?
Well, you base it on what it is. I mean, at the end of the day, Vauxhall took the Carlton GSI and converted it to a Lotus Carlton.
Exactly.
I took a 2 litre Diamond and converted it to a Lotus Carlton. Okay, Vauxhall never made one, but information I received through Autobahn Stormers was Lotus went to Vauxhall to build 150 of these cars out of the original 1100 they were going to build, and Vauxhall said no due to the recession in 1990.
Because there was a terrible recession on at that time. If you look at the price of cars back then,
well, that's just 48 grand for the standard Lotus Carlton.
There was a huge jump because of the interest rates and everything around about then.
Yes.
I do remember reading as well that they also considered using the Cavalier and the Senator before settling on the Carlton.
Yes.
They had contemplated it. I can see how a Senator would work because it's just the same as this. I've got no idea what they would have had to do to build a Lotus Cavalier, because it would have had to be 4-wheel drive.
Yes.
And the C20 let and the problems I had with the 4-wheel drive system as it was, that would have been interesting to see what they could have done with that, and I can see why they didn't go for it in the end.
Well, you could look at the engine bay. I mean, this thing is jam-packed and there's no much room to work. But see, once you take certain things away, it's just a straightforward 24 valve straight 6 engine. Basically, that's all it is.
Because that's what, like you say, that's what they did. They took complete Carlton GSIs.
Yes,
the Burnley cars were bits missing. This was a car with full interiors and bumpers.
Yes, this was a car that was actually built.
So I want to know.
They weren't registered on the road. That's why they could change the chassis number.
I wonder what happened to all the Carlton GSI interiors and bits and pieces that came off them and the bumpers and all that. Somebody must have been.
Somebody must have probably put them up for sale or whatever. But see, all these cars were actually built at the time. Yeah, at the time they were actually all built.
Aye, so let's get it fired up then and we'll see. As you can see hiding in the back, you've got a few trophies and magazine articles.
Yes, a couple of magazines the car's been in, and trophies from shows from when the car went on the road in 2018.
Oh, it says Performance Vauxhall. It was after it.
Yes, Performance Vauxhall.
Have they changed it to from Total Vauxhall after
Yes.
I'd left there? Eh?
Yes, and Autobahn Stormers, it was in the magazine, Autobahn Stormers magazine as well.
Well, I suppose if we're going to, we better lift these out if we're going to take it a wee jaunt down the road.
Can do that.
Car would be apt to go and send these things flying. There we go. There's the Autobahn Stormers Club magazine, and we've got Performance Vauxhall, August, September 2018. Of course, I used to work for Total Vauxhall back in the day. Well, 10 years ago now, I left. And obviously you've got the Lotus body kit. Did you get a complete donor car or did you get various bits and pieces?
Yes, a complete donor car. It had been smashed for the body kit. And the engine and running gear came from a car that had been lying for years, and it was absolutely rotten, so I got all the running gear and the potential to put it into this car once the engine was totally rebuilt.
What about your back bumper there? Did that have to get specially done?
That's a back bumper that has to be modified for the estate. But all the kit, straightforward, bolt on, bumper goes on properly, just straight in.
See that? Chunky tyres, 235s on the front. What's on the back of it? 255s. With Carlton you did get full leather trim. The estate seats are different in the back, but the good thing is if you can get hold of a Carlton Diamond Estate, which is a pretty rare model in itself, you got leather seats in it. So that solved that problem. And of course, if you look in the inside of it, these are the original spec Lotus Sport seats, which were heated as standard. So when there's not a lot, sitting behind the steering wheel, there's not a lot to set it apart from a normal Carlton. Indeed, the GSI 24 valve came with a trip computer and cruise control as standard, and the Lotus lost these. It's just those couple of little badges on the steering wheel and on the rev counter that set it apart, and if you happen to look down at the gear stick, you would notice that it's got 6 positions on it. These beautiful, comfortable leather sport seats. Your 6-speed from the Corvette, and it's all just your standard chunky Carlton buttons on the dash, and we've got here a proper 1980s mobile phone as well. So there you go, you knew you'd made it back in 1990 if you were screaming up and down the motorway in one of these with your phone clamped to the side of your head. As you climb in behind the wheel, you'll notice just 3,200 miles on the clock since it's had its complete rebuild. And also there's something you don't normally see on the speedometer, is that it goes to 180 miles an hour, and you'd better believe that it'll go off the clock as well. We've got the 4-spoke leather steering wheel, standard adjustment on it there, and you get a little bit of padding on the glove box lid, and that's about it really. And as mentioned before, analog clock instead of a trip computer, and no cruise control. They never bothered with it on the Lotus. And you would have thought maybe you would need it to behave yourself, because it could be quite easy to find yourself doing way over the speed limit. Of course, the Lotuses only came in one colour, which is imperial green, and this car was originally metallic red, quite possibly Bordeaux or satin red, and it's had the full shooting match in imperial green. You would never know it was originally a different colour. Right, here we go. I'm going to take it for a wee test drive. What was your first ever car?
It was an Opel Manta 2 litre S with a black vinyl roof, which was very rare at the time, in silver. And I basically got hooked from there. Vauxhall man, through and through, 35-40 years of Vauxhall. And I eventually went into the bigger cars. I had the Senators, the Monzas, then I started with the Carltons, got into the Carltons quite well, and basically done 25 odd years with the Carlton. And when the Lotus came out, I always craved for one. Eventually had an opportunity to buy one, and that's where it went from.
You can feel the like the power in this. You can feel like the sort of the grunt in it. It's just like kind of slightly vibrating the whole car from idle. And it pulls out of there like that, far off the engine.
I think the turbos really kick in about 2.5, 3 upwards, and then it just sinks you to the seat.
It does.
And this thing just shifts down the road.
There's not really enough space where we are here to get these things wound up. They're designed for charging up and down the autobahn.
Yes.
Big wide open roads. And that was the thing with it when I had it for Total Vauxhall. There weren't that many bits of road where you could really fully open it up.
That's correct.
You just look down and all of a sudden you'd be doing another turn, you'd be like, I've got to slow down again.
Yes, very much so. It was one of these that you had to be very cautious of how you actually drove it, because of the speed. You would hit 70 before you even know it. And here we are, we're up to 50 already.
It's not even tickling the throttle.
Of course, you need the big EP brakes to stop.
Oh aye.
This thing is...
What's it like to get the calipers rebuilt in them and things? I think all of those bits will be available.
The pistons you can get through the Autobahn Stormers. That's not a problem. And it's pretty straightforward. It's not hard to rebuild them.
What's the most expensive bit in the car if it goes wrong then? Something to do with the engine?
The engine, basically. The engine, yep. I mean, it costs £10,000 in total to buy the engine and rebuild it.
There's our turbos. Oh.
Hear the turbos.
You can hear the noise off it, the whine off the drivetrain, the spool for the turbos and everything. It's quite... Where are you going? Mercedes in the middle of the road there. Quite intoxicating, aye.
Yes.
saying, because this is just, it's got the limited slip diff in it, but there's no traction control or EBS or anything like that on this, it's just brute. Yeehaw!
80 miles per hour.
What do you reckon it'll spin its wheels in?
Fourth gear.
Fourth.
Yes, no problem.
You can see why quite a few of them ended up smashed.
Yes, or stolen and used for
Aye, ram raids and things like
bank
that,
raids and various things because nobody could catch them.
No, there's that famous video isn't there on YouTube
40 RA.
40 RA where it gets away from the
Yes.
police. Aye.
You can understand how it would get away.
So there we have it. Hope you've enjoyed the video on this, the only Lotus Carlton estate in the world. David's got it up for sale now for the right money, so if you're serious about making an inquiry, get in touch. It is the real deal. Fully rebuilt engine, everything genuine Lotus on it. This is basically how it would have been done if it was built from the factory. So I've had a great time looking around it and getting a run in it. Thanks again to David, and I'll see you next time.